Bronny James. Everyone has an opinion on him. Some good, some not so good, but with the draft right around the corner, there's a question that's in everyone's mind. Does Bronny James have the potential to be an NBA talent? He's been watched since the day he was born, and everyone has been waiting for this moment. So is he actually good enough to be his own player, or is he just going to end up nothing more than LeBron's son? Well, that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video. And right before we get into that, I'm going to ask you to please hit the subscribe button. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers, and while that doesn't really mean anything, it's a cool number to reach, and it'll make me very happy. Anyways, into the video. Now, to start it off, this video isn't about if Bronny will or will not get drafted, because there's a pretty high chance he's drafted purely based off his last name. And I don't really care for any of that. I care about if his production should actually garner him the label of an NBA player. And the first thing that I think needs to be mentioned is his performance at the NBA Draft Combine. The Combine told us a lot about Bronny. First of all, his height is finally confirmed. Being listed at around 6'4" for college, it made me and many others more confident about his ability to perform at the next level. But after the Combine, he's been measured at a height of 6'1". While that was without shoes, a pair of sneakers can only do so much. While 6'1" is obviously tall, for an NBA player, 6'1" ranges in the bottom of height percentiles. And this will be a huge deal in a bit. The Combine also confirmed that Bronny is a naturally gifted athlete. He ranked 4th among all participants in the vertical jump, leaping a lovely 40 inches, as well as placing solidly among the agility drills. Looking at his frame, for a kid his age, his body is ready for the NBA. The final thing the Combine gave us was some scrimmages, and while the first game didn't go to plan, the second game showed us some flashes of what to expect. Bronny played a pretty traditional off-ball role, and the jump shot looked good, shooting 40% from 3 with nice defense and playmaking to go along with it. Bronny ended the game with 13 points, a team high, despite not being in the starting lineup. And this game really impressed me because you gotta remember, he's playing against people who are touted as the next generation of NBA stars. But the Combine can only show you so much. So how did he actually do with his lone collegiate season at USC? Now, obviously Bronny's season wasn't ideal, starting the season suffering from cardiac arrest, which sidelined him for the beginning of the season. Luckily, he was able to fully recover and play 25 games for the Trojans this season. Now, when you look at the stats, yeah, the numbers don't jump off the page. He averaged about 5 points on 20 minutes per game with, let's face it, pretty bad efficiency. He also averaged about a steal and 0.2 blocks per game, which also doesn't put him on a pedestal of any sort. But just box score watching doesn't get anyone anywhere. So what do you actually see when you watch the games? We saw great playmaking potential, especially in transition, being great at running down the court and making proper decisions. While his gravity isn't really prominent due to his lack of offensive production, he's still able to make the most out of his vision and make proper passes. He was also able to play great defense, being primarily a disruptor and just being a pest, which is great and all until you look at the glaring issue I mentioned before, his size. It's hard to be a great defensive player when you're constantly looking up at the ball. While obviously there are great short defensive players, it makes it a whole lot harder. And to make up for the size, you'll need an elite motor and elite IQ, which thankfully Bronny shows flashes of. Bronny seems to have his father's IQ, which is on full display when he, like I mentioned earlier, is playmaking, and also while he's on defense. Despite his hustle being questioned sometimes, his ability to get in the passing lanes and being positioned at just the right spots on the court defensively really show that his brain functions like an elite basketball player. Another problem that was brought up is his shooting. Bronny's projected to be sort of defensive guard who can stand out on the perimeter and shoot when he needs to. Sadly, his shooting is more theoretical than anything else. What I mean by that is Bronny has a nice looking jump shot, and in the Combine he had the second best shooting results out of anybody there. He's shown plenty of flashes that he has a great jump shot. The problem is he's just not consistent with it. In an interview with The Ringer, an anonymous NBA GM stated that he'd be a first rounder if he shot well at USC, and him shooting 27% from 3 really proves that. While he was capable of shooting 43% on pull-up jumpers, the sample size was pretty small and the consistency just wasn't there at all. Again, in theory, Bronny would be a great shooter off the screen, or if interrupted, can make a good pass out of it with his above average decision making. Sadly, he just hasn't been able to prove that he can consistently do that. There is a bright side with all this though, as each year Bronny has improved exponentially and has really just shown raw love for the game and desire to improve. Mentality-wise, he seems like a very mature man for his age, ready to set himself realistic expectations about who he is. When asked what kind of player he wanted to be, Bronny went on to say this.
My goal isn't really to be that guy. There's a lot of guys in the NBA that are, have that role already. My current goal is just to, fit into a role that a team needs. That's what's going to get me drafted.
He also went on to say he looked up to multiple defense-first guards like Drew Holiday, Derek White, and Davion Mitchell. And personally, I think that's a great thing to see. Really making it apparent you want to play the game the right way and are willing to take a backseat offensively to do the dirty work and defend. I actually think Davion Mitchell is a great comparison for Bronny. Davion is a great defender despite his shorter than Bronny's stature, yet his offensive inability proves to be his greatest weakness. Bronny has also made it clear time and time again that he's his own man and he doesn't want to be drafted just because of his dad. And I genuinely believe he has all the tools to be his own sufficient NBA player. So in conclusion, yes, Bronny's size is lacking, but if he keeps improving the way he's been improving, specifically in the shooting department, there's not a doubt in my mind that he can't become a solid role player. Players willing to put their stats aside and focus on disrupting the opposing team's offense is something NBA GMs are always looking for. And if Bronny can become the shooter he shows flashes of becoming, the 3-and-D potential with the ability to drive to the rim and make proper decisions on his feet, I truly believe he could become a starting guard in the future. I think he definitely has some things he needs to work on. Sure, I don't think if you drop him on the Spurs starting lineup right now that he'll be the perfect point guard for Wemby, but we gotta relax. He's been in the spotlight since literally the day he was born, has shown great maturity and ability to play the sport we love at a high level. So overall, yes, Bronny James has the potential to be a successful NBA talent. I really hope you liked this video. Let me know your thoughts on Bronny down below if you think I'm right or not, and let me know how I can improve my videos. I hope if you liked it enough, you'll consider subscribing, and I also hope you consider having a great rest of your day.